what is the interface segregation principle?
Yeah, the ISP states that, components should not be forced to depend on behaviors that they do not use.
So
right?
methods or types or anything they don't use.
Exactly.
So let's say if you are a client of a protocol with 2 methods, but you only use one of those methods, ideally, you should only know about the method you depend on.
But that's not the case most of the time. And why is it not the case?
Convenience.
Convenience, exactly. It's like in the single responsibility principle, you want to add a new method and perhaps Xcode is open on a specific class. You say, well, okay, that seems correct. The same with protocols. You say, well, I don't know, like this seems something that my UI is going to use, right? And then you have like a data source, let's say protocol, and you just go and add that there because it is used in the UI for some completely unrelated reason.
Yes. And now this component knows about the UI because you added this method just to satisfy the UI.
Exactly.
So the same if you have like a protocol cache and you have multiple implementations of it. Let's say you have one method there to retrieve an access token.
Yeah.
Right. So you're caching access tokens. And you have the protocol that hides the implementation of that. Maybe it's core data implementation, maybe it's a keychain implementation or just an in-memory implementation of the cache. Fantastic. But now you need a new feature. You need to decode the access token and get a user ID from it. Now, if you go to the cache protocol and you add a new method, like retrieve user ID. Now this protocol has 2 methods. Retrieve access token, retrieve user ID.
Yeah.
When you should probably have broken it into 2 protocols. Because if you have multiple implementations of the protocol, all the implementations are going to have to implement the decoding of the user token. So this violates a bunch of principles. It violates the single responsibility principle. It violates probably the least cost substitution principle.
Exactly. It's mayhem.
So breaking down interfaces are going to help you conform to all of the Solidity principles. The interface segregation principle. I'm not going to say it's the most important one because all of them are important.
They are important. Yes. There's no, like, you can't say,
but it's key.
Yes, exactly.
To break down interfaces and only depend on methods you really need.
And again, like this is about mindfulness and about, observing your behavior. Think of it in terms of making a fallacy, right? Like if you're saying something always is going to have this behavior, or like all of the subtypes of a protocol are going to have this behavior, right? Then you're committing a fallacy because, most probably that's not true.
Always, never.
Exactly, right? You want to hedge. You want to protect your system against these fallacies, against like these things that, at the time they seem logical, but in time you just don't know what's going to happen, right?
You cannot predict the future. Thus, you follow the principles that are going to help you create flexible systems that if a new requirement comes, you're ready for it.
Yeah.
You're not just thinking in the future too much and wasting a lot of time doing it. You're talking about 5-10 seconds here creating a protocol.
Exactly.
You can even automate it if you want. Some kind of tool that create protocols for you. I don't think you need it, but if you want it, if you want to save 2 seconds, you can do it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those, like, you need to think about it, like if you find yourself adding more than one method in a protocol, especially if the protocol is old, then you're probably violating the ISP.
Yes.
Right.
Because you're probably going to break a bunch of modules that depend on that protocol as well.
Done. Is there anything else to say? Like,
even if they don't need the new functionality, right?
Exactly.
They are happy with just the old method in there. Now you add something else, you need to recompile, redeploy all the modules that depend on the client instead of just creating a new protocol.
Yes.
So again, discipline, because by creating isolated interfaces, you can test things easily in isolation. You can compose them in different ways. You can decorate that interface and add more behavior without changing any existing code. You can conform to the open-close principle, the single responsibility principle, and all the other solid principles. So just be mindful, understand the benefits and downsides of not following it.
Yes.
And in my experience, the upsides It trumps, like it just wins against the downsides easily.
Exactly.
One of the downsides, more interfaces. What is it? More typing.
Like,
How much typing?
yes.
Not a lot. It's an
More
interface.
typing. Yes. Like, it's not like we're programmers, and that's what we do. But
Yeah. It's just maybe adding a new protocol or maybe adding a new closure, adding a new generic parameter. Just separate it rather than changing existing code, recompiling modules, breaking interfaces, violating the least call substitution. Because the more methods you add to your interface, the harder it is to implement it.
that's exactly right.
So that's it. So what is an example of the interface segregation principle in practice? Well, as we just said, let's say we have a cache protocol that stores access tokens, and we have this new feature where you want to decode the access tokens. You shouldn't add a method to the cache protocol. You should create another interface for decoding the access token, segregate those two interfaces, implement them in different components, or maybe the same component is going to implement both, but doesn't matter. From the client point of view, you should only depend on the methods you use.
That's correct. Maybe the same component is gonna implement both. There's absolutely no problem with that.
That's it. So, what are some violations of the interface segregation principle? Messy protocols with loads of methods, especially unrelated methods.
Yes.
One is for retrieving the access token, the other one's for validating it.
Yes.
Those are two responsibilities. So separate your interfaces. It's going to help you conform to all the other solid principles.
Yes.
So other violations of the interface segregation principle? Well, protocols that are hard to implement. They have too many methods. They have methods you don't want to implement.
That's it. Like if you find a protocol, with more like, I don't know, more than one. No, I'm kidding.
Right. Yeah, ideally you should have one method per protocol.
Ideally, yes.
But of course, that's not feasible. So follow the single responsibility principle. You look at this protocol, you look at this abstract interface you have and say, is this responsible for more than one thing? If yes, you separate the methods into 3, whatever, many interfaces you need. So you have single purpose abstractions that can be composed differently, tested in isolation, and etc.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So when you feel like you want to add more methods to a protocol, stop and think.
That's it.
Most probably, you need a new protocol instead.
That's the signal.